Maria had worked at the luxury hotel for nearly 5 years. She had seen all kinds of guests, businessmen, families on vacation, famous celebrities, and even some people who acted strangely. But most of the time she just did her job without thinking too much about them. She loved her work, even though it was tiring. The hotel was beautiful, with golden chandeliers, soft carpets, and rooms so big they felt like small apartments. One afternoon, she was assigned to clean a suite on the 12th floor. As she knocked on the door, she expected it to be empty like usual. But when the door opened, a man in his 50s stood there. He was tall, with neatly combed hair, and an expensive watch on his wrist. He smiled, but something about his smile didn't feel right to Maria. It was too forced, too perfect, like he was pretending. Standing behind him was a young girl, probably around 14 or 15 years old. She had long, dark hair and wore a simple dress. She was quiet, her eyes downcast, her hands clasped together. Most guests in a luxury hotel looked happy, excited, or at least relaxed. But this girl looked different. She looked scared. Maria's instincts kicked in immediately. She had seen fathers and daughters traveling together before. They joked, laughed, or at least talked normally. But this man never let the girl speak. Instead, he answered for her. "She's fine. She's just shy," the man said with a small chuckle, as if reading Maria's thoughts. Maria forced a polite smile and nodded. "Would you like me to clean your room now, sir?" she asked. The man hesitated for a second, then shook his head. No, we don't need housekeeping today. We like our privacy." That wasn't unusual. Some guests preferred not to have their rooms cleaned daily, especially if they were staying long-term. But something about his answer, the way he said "we," made Maria uneasy. The girl didn't look like she had any choice in the matter. "Of course, sir. Just let us know if you need anything," Maria said, stepping back. As she walked down the hallway, she felt a strange heaviness in her chest. She had no proof that anything was wrong, and maybe she was just overthinking. But her gut told her something wasn't right. Later that day, she saw the man and the girl again in the hotel lobby. The man was talking to the receptionist, and the girl was sitting on one of the plush chairs. Maria glanced at her, and for a brief second, their eyes met. There was something in the girl's eyes, something desperate. She wasn't just shy. She was afraid. Maria knew she couldn't ignore it. She would have to keep an eye on them. She just didn't know yet that what she was about to discover would change everything. The next morning, Maria checked her cleaning schedule and saw that the same suite was on her list again. She remembered the man and the quiet girl. Something about them had unsettled her, and now she was curious. Would they let her clean today, or would the man refuse again? As she walked to the 12th floor with her cart full of fresh towels and supplies, she noticed that the hallway was silent. Most guests left their rooms in the morning to explore the city or attend meetings, but that suite's door remained closed. She knocked gently. "Housekeeping." A few seconds passed before the door opened slightly. The man peered out, blocking most of the room behind him. He was dressed in a crisp shirt, looking as polished as the day before. "We don't need cleaning today either," he said with a friendly but firm smile. "Thank you." Maria nodded, but before she could turn away, she caught a glimpse of the girl standing in the background. She wasn't looking at Maria this time. She was looking at the floor. Her hands were clenched into fists, and she stood unnaturally still. "Are you sure, sir? Even just fresh towels?" Maria asked, trying to peek inside. "No, we're fine," he said quickly, stepping forward as if to close the door. Maria hesitated for just a moment before saying, "Okay, sir. If you need anything, just call the front desk." The man nodded, and the door shut softly. As Maria pushed her cart down the hallway, her mind raced. Why wouldn't they allow housekeeping for 2 days in a row? Some guests liked privacy, but most people didn't mind fresh towels or a little cleaning. And why did the girl seem so nervous? Later that afternoon, Maria was in the laundry room folding sheets when her friend Rosa, Another housekeeper walked in. "You look deep in thought," Rosa said with a chuckle, picking up a stack of towels. Maria sighed. "It's that guest in room 1204, the one with the teenage girl." "What about them?" "The man won't let me in to clean, not even to give them towels. And the girl, she seems scared," Maria said, lowering her voice. Rosa frowned. "Maybe she's just shy." "That's what I thought too," Maria admitted. "But what if something is wrong?" Rosa looked at her for a moment, then shrugged. "If you really think something is off, keep watching. But don't jump to conclusions. People act strange for all kinds of reasons." Maria nodded, but deep down, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. That evening, as she passed by the hotel lobby, she saw the man again. He was speaking with the receptionist, smiling and laughing like any other guest. The girl stood beside him, her hands clutching the strap of a small bag. For a split second, Maria saw her glance around nervously. Then, as if feeling Maria's gaze, the girl looked straight at her. Their eyes met again, and this time, Maria was sure of it. The girl was asking for help. Maria just had to figure out how. Maria couldn't stop thinking about the girl in room 1204. That silent plea in her eyes, the way she never spoke, the way the man always answered for her, it all felt wrong. Maria had cleaned hundreds of rooms in this hotel, seen countless guests, but something about this situation made her uneasy in a way she couldn't ignore. That evening, she decided to do something she had never done before. She would check the trash. It wasn't normal for housekeepers to go through guests' trash unless they were cleaning the room, but Maria had seen the man throw something away in the hallway bin earlier. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she was overthinking. But her gut told her to look. She waited until the hallway was empty, then walked over to the bin near room 1204. Taking a deep breath, she pulled out a few crumpled tissues, an empty water bottle, and then a napkin with something faintly written on it. Maria's heart pounded as she smoothed it out. The handwriting was shaky, the letters barely visible, as if someone had written them in a hurry. "Help me," she gasped. Her hands trembled as she held the napkin. The girl had written this. There was no doubt in Maria's mind. Her mind raced. What should she do? Should she tell the hotel manager? Call security? But what if she was wrong? What if this was just a misunderstanding? The man was a paying guest, and the hotel had strict rules about respecting privacy. If she accused someone without proof, she could lose her job. She folded the napkin carefully and slipped it into her pocket. She needed more information before she could act. The next morning, Maria waited for her chance. The man and the girl always ordered room service, which meant they weren't leaving the room often. When the breakfast cart arrived at their door, Maria pretended to clean nearby, pushing her cart slowly down the hallway. The hotel staff member knocked. Room service. The door opened just a little, just enough for Maria to see inside. The man took the tray, speaking politely, but Maria focused on the girl. She was standing near the bed, hands folded tightly in front of her. For a brief second, the girl's eyes flicked toward Maria. Then, ever so slightly, she stepped to the side. Maria's breath caught. Behind her, barely visible on the bed, was a hotel notepad. And on it, in the same shaky handwriting, was another message. Not his daughter. Maria's heart pounded. The girl was in trouble. She was trying to send a message, trying to get someone to notice. Maria had seen enough. This wasn't just in her head. Something was very, very wrong. She had to help, but she had to be smart about it. Whatever was happening in room 1204, she wasn't going to look away. Maria couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the girl's frightened expression and the words written on the notepad. Not his daughter. It was clear now. The girl was in danger. She needed help. But Maria had to be careful. She didn't know who the man was, but he seemed powerful and confident. If she made the wrong move, he might become suspicious and take the girl somewhere else. somewhere no one could help her. The next morning, Maria checked her cleaning list again. Room 1204 was on it. This was her chance. If she could get inside, maybe she could talk to the girl, give her a way to escape, or at least find more proof to show the hotel management. She waited until mid-morning, when most guests were either having breakfast or out for the day. Taking a deep breath, she walked to room 1204 and knocked lightly. Housekeeping. For a moment, there was no sound. Then, the door creaked open just a little. The man stood there, dressed neatly as always, his face calm but watchful. Maria gave her best professional smile. "Good morning, sir. Would you like me to clean the room today?" He hesitated. "No, we're fine." Maria had expected this answer. But this time, she wasn't going to give up so easily. "Oh, sir, it's just a quick cleaning," she said politely. "It's part of the service. And I have fresh towels." She gestured to the stack in her hands. "You don't have to pay anything extra." The man glanced over his shoulder. Maria could tell he was thinking. Then, to her surprise, he sighed and stepped aside. "Fine. Just be quick." Maria's heart raced as she entered the room. The curtains were half drawn, letting in only a little sunlight. The girl sat stiffly on the edge of the bed, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't look up. Maria moved slowly, pretending to clean as usual. She replaced the towels, wiped the nightstand, and straightened the bed. As she pulled up the sheets, something small and flat slid out and landed on the floor near her feet. A hotel notepad. Maria's breath caught. She glanced at the man. He was distracted, checking his phone. Quickly, she bent down and picked up the notepad, flipping to the page with the message. The words were simple but chilling. "Help me. He won't let me leave." Maria felt a lump in her throat. She swallowed hard and glanced at the girl. The girl finally met her gaze. For a brief second, Maria saw something in her eyes. Hope. She knew she had to act fast. She had to get help before it was too late. But first, she had to get out of the room without raising suspicion. Maria's hands trembled slightly as she tucked the notepad back under the sheet, making sure it looked untouched. She couldn't let the man see that she had found the message. She forced herself to act normal, continuing to straighten the bed. The girl sat completely still, her fingers tightly gripping the hem of her dress. Maria wanted to tell her everything would be okay, but she knew she couldn't speak freely. Not yet. The man paced near the window, still looking at his phone. Maria saw her chance. She stepped closer to the girl, pretending to smooth out the pillow. In a low whisper, she asked, "Do you need help?" The girl hesitated for a moment, then gave a tiny, almost invisible nod. Maria's heart pounded. She had to get out of this room and find help as soon as possible. But if she left too suddenly, the man might suspect something. She took a deep breath and forced a polite smile. "All done, sir," she said cheerfully, stepping back toward the door. The man looked up from his phone. "That was fast," he said, eyeing her for a moment. Maria shrugged. "I've been doing this a long time. If you need anything else, just call the front desk." She turned and walked out, keeping her pace normal, even though she wanted to run. The moment the door closed behind her, she let out a quiet breath of relief. Now she had to act quickly. She pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway, forcing herself to stay calm. She needed to go straight to the hotel manager, but what if they didn't believe her? The man in room 1204 was wealthy and well-dressed. He didn't look like a bad person, but Maria knew looks could be deceiving. Instead of going to the manager right away, she headed toward security. She had seen a security guard, Daniel, near the elevators earlier. He had worked at the hotel for years and was someone she trusted. She spotted him near the front desk, talking to another staff member. "Daniel," she whispered urgently, pulling him aside. "I need your help. There's something wrong in room 1204. Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Maria took a deep breath. "I think the girl in that room is in trouble." She left a message. She's not his daughter. She's asking for help. Daniel's expression changed instantly. He didn't ask pointless questions. He nodded and pulled out his radio. "I'll alert the manager and call the police," he said. "You did the right thing, Maria." Maria felt a wave of relief, but she knew it wasn't over yet. The man was still in that room with the girl. And now, she could only hope they weren't too late. Maria's heart pounded as she watched Daniel speak into his radio. His usual calm face had turned serious. He wasn't wasting any time. "The police are on their way," he told her. "Stay here and act normal. We don't want him to get suspicious." Maria nodded, though her hands were still shaking. She had done her part, but now she could only wait. She hoped they weren't too late. Daniel walked toward the hotel manager, a tall man named Mr. Collins, and whispered something to him. Mr. Collins' face darkened, and he immediately followed Daniel toward the security office. Maria could tell they were preparing a plan. Meanwhile, Maria returned to her cleaning cart and tried to keep herself busy. But her mind was racing. What if the man in room 1204 realized something was wrong? What if he tried to leave before the police arrived? She stole a glance toward the elevators. Her stomach tightened when she saw the man from room 1204 stepping out of his suite. He was dressed sharply, carrying a small leather bag, and heading straight for the lobby. Maria's breath caught. Was he leaving? Was the girl still in the room? She quickly turned away, pretending to clean a nearby table. She had to act like she hadn't noticed him. If he saw her watching, he might suspect something. The man walked past the front desk and spoke briefly with the receptionist. Then, to Maria's relief, he didn't leave the hotel. He sat down in the lounge area and pulled out his phone. Good. He wasn't running. Not yet. A few minutes later, Maria saw 2 uniformed police officers enter the hotel. They spoke quietly with Daniel and Mr. Collins before heading toward the elevators. Maria held her breath as she watched them disappear onto the 12th floor. The next few moments felt like hours. Maria kept wiping the same table over and over, unable to focus on anything else. Then, finally, she saw the officers return, with the girl. Maria felt a wave of relief so strong that she nearly cried. The girl walked between the 2 officers, looking nervous but safe. One of the officers had a gentle hand on her shoulder, speaking to her in a soft voice. Maria wanted to run to her and tell her everything was okay, but she stayed in place. The girl was in good hands now. A few seconds later, another group of officers arrived, this time heading straight for the man in the lounge. Maria held her breath as they approached him. The man looked up from his phone, confused at first. But as soon as he saw the officers, his expression changed. Maria saw it, the flash of panic in his eyes. He knew. The officers spoke to him calmly, but he didn't argue. He simply nodded and stood up. One officer took his bag while another guided him toward the exit. Maria watched as they led him outside, where a police car was already waiting. It was over. Maria let out a shaky breath, finally allowing herself to relax. The girl was safe, the man was caught, and Maria had done the right thing. But she knew this was only the beginning of the girl's journey, and she hoped, more than anything, that she would find happiness and safety from now on. Maria watched as the police led the man outside. He didn't resist, but there was something in his expression, a mixture of frustration and defeat. The moment he stepped out of the hotel, a police car was waiting. One of the officers opened the door, and after a brief exchange of words, the man got in. Maria let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It was over. But even though the danger was gone, her attention was on the girl. She stood in the lobby, looking small and lost, surrounded by officers. She didn't seem to understand what was happening, and she kept glancing around as if expecting the man to return at any moment. Maria hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. One of the officers noticed her and gave a small nod, as if to say it was okay. Maria approached carefully, not wanting to scare the girl. "You're safe now," she said gently. No one will hurt you." The girl looked up at her. There was hesitation in her eyes, as if she wasn't sure whether to believe it. Then, slowly, her tense shoulders relaxed. "My name is Maria," she said softly. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Emily." Maria smiled warmly. "That's a beautiful name, Emily." Emily glanced at the police officers, then back at Maria. "Is he gone?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Maria nodded. "Yes. The police took him. He won't be able to hurt you anymore." Emily swallowed hard, and for the first time, Maria saw tears welling up in her eyes. But she didn't cry. Not yet. It was as if she was still trying to understand what had just happened. One of the officers, a kind-looking woman, knelt beside Emily. "We're going to take care of you now," she said gently. "We'll make sure you're safe." Maria could see the girl's fingers trembling as she gripped the hem of her dress. "What will happen to me?" she asked. The officer gave her a reassuring smile. "We'll take you somewhere safe, where you'll be looked after. There are kind people who will help you." Emily nodded slowly, but Maria could tell she was still scared. Maria's heart ached for her. She had been so brave, sending that message for help, even when she didn't know if anyone would listen. And now, after everything, she was finally free. But freedom could be just as scary as the situation she had been in. Maria reached out carefully, offering her hand. "You're not alone, Emily," she said. For a moment, Emily didn't move. Then, slowly, she reached out and held Maria's hand. It was small, cold, and shaking, but Maria held it firmly, giving it a comforting squeeze. Everything would be okay now. And for the first time, Emily seemed to believe it. Maria held Emily's hand for a few more moments, giving her a sense of warmth and safety. The little girl had been through so much, and even though she was free now, Maria knew she would need time to heal. The female officer gently touched Emily's shoulder. "We'll take you somewhere safe, Emily. You'll have people who will take care of you, and we'll make sure nothing bad happens to you again." Emily looked at Maria with uncertain eyes. "Will I see you again?" she asked softly. Maria felt a lump in her throat. She had only known Emily for a short time, but she already felt protective of her. "I don't know, sweetheart," she said honestly, "but I promise you, you're going to be okay. You're strong." Emily hesitated, then slowly let go of Maria's hand. One of the officers guided her toward the exit, where a car was waiting to take her to safety. Maria watched as the door opened, and Emily climbed inside, looking back at her one last time. Maria waved with a reassuring smile. "Take care, Emily." Emily gave a small nod, and then the car drove away. Maria stood there for a while, processing everything that had happened. She had gone to work that morning thinking it would be just another ordinary day, but now she had helped save a life. The thought made her chest feel both heavy and full at the same time. She turned to see Daniel, the security guard, standing nearby. "You did something amazing today, Maria," he said with a proud smile. "If you hadn't noticed something was wrong, that girl might still be trapped." Maria sighed. "I just followed my heart. I couldn't ignore it." Mr. Collins, the hotel manager, walked up to them. "Maria," he said in a serious tone, "I heard everything from the police. What you did today was brave and selfless." Maria nodded, unsure of what to say. Mr. Collins then surprised her by smiling. "We need more people like you in this world," he said, "and as a small way to thank you, I'm giving you a raise." Maria's eyes widened. She had never expected anything in return. "Sir, You deserve it," he interrupted. "This hotel is lucky to have you." Maria felt a wave of emotion, but all she could do was nod. As she went back to work that day, she felt different. Something inside her had changed. She had always thought of herself as just a simple hotel maid, but now she realized she was much more than that. She was someone who had made a difference, and even though she might never see Emily again, She would always remember the little girl who had found the courage to ask for help, and the day Maria answered that call. Because sometimes the smallest actions can save a life.